Good morning. You're watching Market Fatafat right here on ET Now. We're going to flag off all the big movers and shakers today in trade, Mubina Kapasi. And markets, well, in the green, intraday basis, we did hit a record, but now we're off those highs. The Sensex too was clocking in gains of more than 150 points, but that one too now has sort of settled down and is sub the 39,500, whereas the broader markets continue to be in the red. But let's run you through then the individual movers and shakers and what's keeping the markets active in trade. We have with us today Soumya Sharma, Kunal Bothra, and for the technicals as well, we're going to be joined by Hemain Kapadia of KR Choksi Securities. So thank you to all of you for joining in. Let's kickstart the show with the big loser today on trade, and that is BPCL. A result reaction perhaps seen, and it's 5.5% gone for the stock. And in fact, as we speak, it's at the day's low. Nomura has maintained a neutral stance with the target at 360 rupees. They have said that yes, on the marketing margins front, the company has done pretty well. However, they are a bit circumspect when it comes to the outlook, because they do believe that there is refining capacity being added, and that is something that would cause the demand outlook to look less optimistic. So essentially, demand-supply balance at this point of time seems to be skewed towards supply. And refining margins as well do remain weak. Of course, they are up from the corresponding quarter's levels. But yeah, all in all, they have a neutral stance. Stock price taking a beating. Kunal, we have Reliance Industries that is seeing quite a rebound after falling for the most part of the last 10-15 days. What do you make of this move?
So yeah, the last 2 weeks have been particularly quite, I would say a good comeback for Reliance Industries. I think from 1400, the stock was beaten down to 1200, 1230 levels. But it's made a good comeback. However, there is still strong resistance which is at this 1400 mark for Reliance Industries, and I think till the time we don't see a break of that and a decisive break of that, it could probably be a case that the stock may go into a consolidation, give you those odd bounces in between. But I think net-net the stock should remain in the range. So Reliance Industries is one stock to be watched out for. If the stock crosses 1400, then I believe that a big resetting of the trend could happen for the stock price.
Okay, so that's RIL, quite a bounce seen over there. Soumya, let's talk about Tata Motors as well, because that one too is a big loser in trade.
Well, yes, talking with the top line, the sales are pretty much in line with our expectations, but they were down by over 4%, impacted by liquidity stress. As far as profits are concerned, they were down by 49%, but still were above our expectations. Margins are below at 9.8% versus 9.9% compared to the last year. Talking about the guidance, the management says that they see tepid demand in Indian CV market for over next 3 to 6 months, and there are multiple slowdown reasons, but they see latent demand for cars. They've added that JLR things should improve in FY22 with JLR guiding for positive free cash flows. Even as far as brokerage is concerned, they have a mixed review when it comes to Tata Motors. The stock down by 5.76% on back of these negative results.
Well, yeah, the guidance as well was pretty weak by Tata Motors, and hence the stock continues to be under pressure. Hemain, Indiabulls Housing Finance is a stock that we have seen traction yesterday. Today as well, it goes higher. What would you recommend viewers do?
Hi, morning, Mumina. I think I would suggest to hold. We're looking at a bounce back, but a pretty severe, I wouldn't say severe, but a strong bounce back. Top loss 799, target 844. We are in a short and medium term uptrend. A minor correction or a cool off seems possible, but despite that, I think a further upside seems like a distinct possibility.
Okay, so there is a possibility of further upside in Indiabulls Housing Finance, which currently is at 824 rupees. One sector that is in the red is the Nifty Metal Index, and I suppose you could attribute it not only to just the general profit booking scenario, but also there's news that finally Norsk Hydro, which is the major alumina supplier to the aluminium industry, has finally been given the nod to restore output at the Alunorte alumina plant, which was since the last 1 year been operating only at 50% of its capacity. Remember, there was a spill in 2018, post which there was an embargo of sorts put in by the Brazilian authorities. Now the Brazilian federal court has allowed Norsk Hydro to resume full output from the Alunorte alumina refinery. And this is something that will once again, increase supply of alumina in the market, which will in turn put pressure on alumina prices and in turn on aluminium prices as well. So you are seeing red on the screen for Nalco as well as Hindalco. Both these stocks in the red. Moving on to stock number 6, then Kunal, Britannia Industries. It's a neat 2% uptick witnessed over here. Your recommendation, and especially given the fact that many of the FMCG names today are taking it a bit easy.
So yes, I think that's one of the reasons why I believe most of the FMCG stocks are in the market scenario, which is getting a bit more comfortable, especially after yesterday's strong uptrend and today's mild bit of consolidation. I think these FMCG stocks are doing pretty well for themselves. Britannia is one of the stocks which I highlighted, I think, even a week ago when the stock was closer to 2650, 2700 range. I think the stock is trying to show some signs of bottom formation on the short-term time frame, and I believe there could be another 100-120 rupees upside possible for the stock price even from a short-term view.
Okay, so that's Britannia currently at 2861 rupees. Samya, how about the numbers for United Breweries?
Well, talking about the revenue, it was up by over 10.7%. On the PAT front, we saw it declining by 25.3%, impacted by intense competition and election environment. In fact, earlier when we talked to the management, they said that elections are usually not a good time. A whole host of rules follow with respect to production and dispatches. Even on the margins front, we saw contraction from 14.1% to 10.5%, and volume particularly declined in UP and West Bengal as well. So that said, but the stock still is gaining by over 4%.
Okay, so that's United Breweries. Make no mistake, the numbers were not that great. I mean, top line growth of only 10%, plus there was margin compression. But yeah, the management as well spoke to ET now and spoke about how the election season usually leads to lower production hours, and that in turn, of course, causes supply constraints and demand problems as well. Let's move on and talk about a big buzzer today in trade, and that's Bandhan Bank. For the last few days, we've been seeing a nice up move come by in this stock. Today as well, it's high by approximately 1%. Your view here?
I would be slightly cautious, Romina. The outlook is positive, but I would suggest partial profit booking. The bounce has come from, somewhere from 545 to current levels, and we are walking into resistance. And we are getting slightly overbought, so a minor cool-off cannot be ruled out. So I would suggest partial profit.
That's the recommendation on a Bandhan Bank. Yes, there is a possibility that there may be a bit of a cool-off from the stock, given the fact that we have been seeing some traction of late. Let's talk about Bharat Forge, which yesterday showed an uptick, and today a reversal of sorts. 3% gone for Bharat Forge. The devil's in the details, as they say, and it looks like Bharat Forge has given a weakish guidance. They have flagged off demand worries. We have Nomura saying that yes, it's a steady Q4, but there's make no mistake that the firm is entering a slow growth phase. And additionally, Kotak has an outright sell on the stock with a target at 460 rupees from the current 471 rupees. 3% gone for Bharat Forge, 15 rupees off. Let's move on to another big mover, and that's City Union Bank. Kunal, what are you observing in the way the stock's been moving?
It's a classic bullish flag pattern formed on the daily and the weekly charts, especially I think if one looks at it over the line charts on the weekly time frame, then you can spot that the stock is forming a bullish flag pattern. It's broken out of those patterns, and we've been highlighting the stock earlier as well, that how it holds on to this 200-day moving averages, consolidates, and then pushes up higher in terms of price trend. I think this is the exact same pattern which has been visible even for the short to medium term investors or time frame for City Union Bank. I believe the stock could be poised for another 15 rupees upside from current levels. 222 is where I've placed the targets on a short term basis.
All right, that's the recommendation on CUB. It's 1.6% higher today in trade. So, I mean, the stock we don't talk about very often, Lakshmi Machine Works. It's delivered its fourth quarter numbers. It's seeing quite a lot of, in fact, it's locked on the upper circuit. But how are the numbers?
Well, talking about the numbers, I think they were pretty much weak as far as the top line is concerned. DC saw a degrowth of over 22.4%. In fact, PAT was down by 33.7%. Well, this was also because of marginal exceptional loss that the company reported. Even on the EBITDA front, down by 52%, margins contracted. Apart from this, in fact, the stock right now is losing by 3.6%. In fact, the board has also approved the setting up of wholly owned subsidiaries in Dubai and Singapore. But the street particularly is reacting to the negative set of results that the company has reported for its Q4.
All right, that is Lakshmi Machine works. I stand corrected. It's actually down 3.6%. Soumya flagged off weak fourth quarter numbers. Remain IndusInd Bank, we finally seen the stock snap out of its losing streak. But today, once again, it's down 1.6%. What would you recommend?
I still feel it's a recovery and not a rally. But I think there is a lot more steam left in this bounce. So I would suggest a buy, stop loss 14.20, target 15.10. A medium-term pullback has begun. I don't think it's yet over. Some of the mechanical indicators like the MACD has given a crossover buy on the daily chart. We are retracing this fall way back from 1800. So I have a feeling more room on the upside.
IndusInd Bank 1.5% gone for the stock. Astral Poly today is seeing a significant downtick in trade. Yes, we have had the fourth quarter numbers, not all that pleasing. We have the revenue which has gone up 21%, so no complaints on the top line front. However, what's disappointing is the kind of contraction we have seen in the margins. Margins have come in fact, from 18.7% to 15.5%. So it's a more than 320 basis points contraction in the margin, which has led to a downtick in the profits as well of 4.3% at 62 crore rupees. Like I said, the revenue in the plastics and the adhesives business has done well. The problem has come essentially in the margins front. I suppose, again, having to do with the way PVC prices have moved. Let's see how what Astral Poly as well said in the conversation with 2ET now. And all in all, the stock is among the top Nifty 500 losers in trade. And Soumya, the same can be said for Torrent Pharma too, big loser in trade.
Well, yes, its earnings were a miss on primarily most of the fronts. Talking about profit line particularly, they reported a loss of over 152 crore rupees versus a profit of 228 crore rupees in the last year. As far as consolidated net sales are concerned, there was an improvement out there. They grew by over 72%. But even if we adjust for the exceptional item that the company reported in this quarter, the adjusted PAT stood at 213 crore and still was down by over 7% compared to the last year. Even the margin saw a slight bit of improvement from 21.3% to 25.5%. As far as India sales are concerned, they were down 5%, and US sales concerned, they were down by 8%, and both of them missed the street estimates. The stock reacting to the negative numbers, down by over 3.4% today in trade.
Okay, that's Torrent Pharma for you. Yes, 3.4% gone. But on the flip side, we have one buzzer, and that is Ruchi Industries. Today is the day that the Q4 numbers are expected. Slated for the board meeting is being held today. But additionally, there's one more trigger, and that is that the company is going to be considering a bonus issue in the board meet as well today. So if the numbers are good and the bonus as well has been decided, we should see that continued uptick perhaps come by in the stock price. But for now, it's already being discounted in the move that we are seeing. 4% higher today in trade. Ruchi Industries, that is, not Ruchi Drugs, and yes, it is going higher in trade today ahead of the numbers as well as the consideration for bonus. Okay. Welcome back. You're watching Market Fatafat right here on ET Now. We're flagging off the big movers and shakers, so let's continue doing that. Bank of Baroda is a stock we want to flag off for the simple reason that we have been seeing increased uptick come by in the stock price. In fact, now it's perched at 125 rupees. So just in the matter of the last 1 week, we've seen a nice 20 to 25 rupees uptick come by in the stock. It's certainly been a great mover within the PSU banking space. 4 straight days of a rise seen in BOB, and at 125 rupees, it's now perched at the highest level since the 30th of April. So great going for BOB. Kunal, Interglobe Aviation, we had the ET Now story with respect to a spat between the promoters. Since then, the stock has been on a downtick. However, today, it's showing some signs of green on the screen.
Yes, Kubina, but I don't know whether this green would last for long or not for Indigo, because the stock has taken the last 3 days, particularly it's taking support at exactly the 50-day moving average. Now we can say that yes, the stock has been correcting and it's taking support at the average, so a bounce could be likely. But what's transpired is that on the daily charts, a lot of the indicators have already confirmed a break of their previous swing supports, and generally when that happens, prices also cave in. I believe a fresh short could be taken or initiated on Indigo below the 50-day moving average, and that could be for at least 100 to 120 points downside further from those levels.
All right, that is Indigo. Yes, Kunal seems to be a bit circumspect on this recovery that we are seeing on the stock. Soumya, let's talk about another OMC that has delivered its numbers, HPCL. Did it fare any better?
I think they're pretty much same when it comes to OMCs. For HPCL, revenues were up by 10%. PAT saw a growth of over 58.4%. Margins also saw an improvement. Talking about these results, Nomura has said that strong result driven by much higher realized marketing margins. Refining earnings were weaker, but marketing earnings were significantly strong. However, they're maintaining a neutral stance with a target price of 260 per share, and they believe that marketing margins would decline in Q1 of FY20. Similarly, CLSA is also retaining a sell on HPCL with a target price of 210 per share. So pretty much mixed reviews, but pretty predominantly towards sell and a neutral. Stock gaining, losing by over 3% on back of these results.
Okay, yes, it's at a 3% downtick for HPCL. In fact, the entire OMC space today is in trouble in trade. Hemen, just dial, it's a nice uptrend we have seen after very long come in for the stock. In fact, now it's at 717 rupees, a 7.4% uptick on the stock. What would you make of this massive move we've seen in the last 2-3 weeks?
Frankly speaking, this has been a long time coming, Mobina. I would suggest a hold, but the stock is in a short, very clearly medium, and possibly a long-term uptrend. We've given a 3-year breakout, Mubina. The stock has been consolidating over here for the last almost 3 years, slightly short of 3 years, and we've given a multi-year breakout. So, thing is, we moved up for 7 trading sessions in a row. Maybe some corrections come in, but if the 3-year breakout is anything to go by, I think we have a long way to go on the upside.
Okay, yes, it's a 3-year breakout. After very long, we're seeing this kind of traction on Just Dial. Let's move on to the next stock. Phillips Carbon is seeing a reaction come by on account of the fourth quarter numbers that it has delivered. We have an okay top line growth of approximately 22% at 921 crore rupees. But I think the disappointment has come in on how it's done on the profitability front, both on the operation side as well as the bottom line. Remember, this too is a commodity-based company, and essentially supplies to the tyre industry. So while the tyre industry in turn is supplying to the auto space, which is seeing some sluggishness, the top line for this one has done okay. But like I said, the trouble has really come in on the bottom line. Absolutely flat profitability at just 74 crore rupees. So that I think is a bit of a disappointment, which is causing the stock as well to dwindle lower in trade. Kunal, what is it that's catching your eye on the way Cipla is moving in trade?
So most of the pharma stocks, they've been beaten down in the last few days. Cipla on the other hand has been consolidating, and when you look at the short-term charts, there is almost a 1.5 odd month of purely range-bound action. The stock has breached those kind of levels on the upside. It's also confirming a break of the 200-day moving average. So a lot of positives which could be coming across for the stock price in the near term. I would suggest that the stock could be a good short-term buy. Targets of 590 could be possible in the near term.
Okay, the stock can rally to 590 rupees. So Kunal certainly seems to be pretty optimistic on Cipla. Samya, NBFCs, we've had, right from the Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog to now even L&T's Chairman speak about flagging of issues with respect to NBFCs. DHFL today is what you are flagging off. What's the latest?
Well, some respite coming in for the banks and particularly the NBFCs. RBI is likely to consider special borrowing window for NBFCs and will begin this consultation on draft guidelines once election outcomes are out. This special borrowing window would not be in a direct form. In fact, this liquidity is likely to be offered via banks. RBI is already reaching out to banks and NBFCs to find best possible solutions to fund this crunch and see this is what's going to give some sort of respite to all the NBFCs. This is what we're gathering from the ET reports today, this morning, and that's the reason the stocks, in fact, particularly all the NBFCs would be gaining on back of this news. For DHFL up by 2.6%.
Okay, that's DHFL, yes, 2.6% higher, and that's the news coming in with respect to the lending window, the borrowing window. Hemen, Edelweiss as well in the same breath today is seeing a bit of a bounce, 5% higher. What is it that you are observing and what would you recommend viewers do?
I think if it's a slightly longer term view, it quantifies as a whole. But if it's a slightly shorter term view, I would suggest partial profit booking. We've had a run up from 138 or so. We are running into stiff resistance at 184 in a range between 184 and 190. It's slightly overbought on the intraday charts. We have not seen a reversal coming in yet, but the market's also being overbought. I feel some profit taking seems possible.
Okay, that's Edelweiss, and yes, Hemen believes that the stock is in a bit of an overbought zone at this point. Kunal, HDFC Limited, I think you have a similar opinion, stock being in an overbought zone.
So yes, Mubina, extremely overbought zone on the hourly charts. Now I don't remember the last time I'd seen an RSI reading of almost 90 on the 60 minutes charts or on the hourly chart. So that indicates that the stock is at an overbought zone. But whether these overbought zones are places to go short, I think the advice would be no. Wait for strong confirmations of reversals on prices, and only then you can expect that the stock could have formed a short-term or near-term top. So as of now, it's at an overbought zone. So long traders have to be a bit cautious on holding on to their long positions here.
Okay, 2445. This is HDFC Limited, by the way, not HDFC Bank. 2445 is what HDFC Bank is trading at. HDFC Limited at approximately 2100 rupees. Samya, Jet Airways now, what's the latest coming in on this one?
Well, this is what we're gathering from Economic Times report that Hinduja gets the backing of Etihad and Naresh Goyal to get on board of Jet Airways, and Hinduja Group has engaged investment bankers led by SBI Capital Markets for this due diligence. The entire street is waiting as to who actually gets and takes charge when it comes to Jet Airways, which is a debt-laden company, and is under the process of finding somebody who could take charge of it.
Okay, let's move on from Jet Airways to LVB then, Lakshmi Vilas Bank. Hemen, today we are seeing some traction come by in the stock price of LVB. What would you recommend over here? We are seeing an uptick come by in the stock, and a lot of these private sector banks, even a City Union Bank is something that Kunal flagged off earlier. What would you recommend on LVB?
Yeah, I would suggest a hold. The stock is in a shorter term uptrend. We've seen a couple of caps come in. We look like sustaining and closing above the 55-day exponential moving average. Indicators like the daily MACD is just on the verge. It is giving a buy. Assumption is the levels would hold till the end of the day. That would quantify as a crossover buy. So hold. Stop loss 70, target 83 and 88. Stock is looking like starting a short term and draw possibly a medium term up.
Okay, and locked in upper circuit is LVB today in trade. On that note, thank you so much, Hemen, for joining in and sharing your technical strategies on individual stocks. Kunal and Soumya, to you as well. We'll wrap it up. Coming up next is Markets at Noon.